Okay, it is kiln opening time again. I wanted to do a short video about some of the glaze testing that I did. I have a few different new glazes and 3 different types of clay, so I'll try to make this quick as possible. This is Textured Turquoise by Amico. It's a Potter's Choice. Been kind of thinking about using this for a while. It is darker than I thought it would be on red clay, but it's actually pretty nice. You can see it is sort of drippy, so I'm a little concerned about that. Of course, this was painted on. I don't have it in dry. You can only buy 25 pounds of it in dry. So I really don't want to buy that much of it, but I might have to if I'm going to use it. You can see that it does pick up some of the texture as the name implies, so that is something that I was looking for. A stoneware glaze that really will pick up texture. Somewhere here is the porcelain sample. So you can see that it's probably really at its best on porcelain. See if it's not blurry. I noticed how blurry my last video was up close. It really picked up the texture there. And it also kind of had more interest to it on the porcelain. If you can see, there's sort of some darker areas with the lighter areas, so definitely a good glaze that could be used on light or dark clay. So that is Textured Turquoise, a Potter's Choice glaze by Amico. Now I also tried some Minnesota Clay Company glazes. They kind of have a fairly small line of stoneware glazes for cone 6. Kind of like 6 to 9, I think is what they say. So minimum is cone 6 on these. It's kind of an interesting range for glaze because if you're firing to cone 6 and you're worried about overfiring, maybe it's kind of a good way to go that your glazes won't get overfired. So I'm kind of having that issue, so I thought maybe this would be a good choice for me. This is Speckled Ivory. It has quite a lot of speckles going on. It has darker ones and what looks like lighter specks, and I don't know if I'll be able to pick that up. I've lost most of the sunlight now. But the white specks could just be really small pieces of frit that didn't melt. And that could be a disadvantage of using a glaze like this, where maybe this frit is designed to melt a little bit higher than cone 6. So that's something that might be an issue, because I kind of noticed that on the edge here, you can kind of feel that a little bit. So if you were making a mug with this on the edge, that might not work so good. Feels smooth there, but maybe just a little bit rough on the edge because of that frit. And on speckled brown stoneware, it's pretty nice also. It's really what I think of as an oatmeal glaze. So that's really why I wanted to use it. So there's more specks because it is speckled clay. The red clay is also speckled. On white clay, on porcelain, you can still see how speckled it is, I hope, on this camera. See if I zoom in there. Probably blurry, I'm sure. So quite a lot of specks. It looks like an oatmeal glaze. It's actually a pretty nice oatmeal. It is called Speckled Ivory by Minnesota Clay Company. I think that one is a keeper. And a glaze that I was pretty excited about of theirs, it's called Caribbean Green. I really don't like the way this glaze, the surface of it, it's very, very shiny. And kind of just a flat paint-like finish. It doesn't really pull or go into the texture. There's a lot of texture on this tile. So I wasn't really thrilled with the end of the result here. It has some pinholing also on this red clay. I'll show it to you on speckled brown. This is the Caribbean Green. I'm not sure if that's a pinhole or just somewhere that the glaze didn't go into, but I do see some pinholing on this. So I'm not loving the outcome of this glaze, because I really thought it would be a little bit more of a turquoise kind of blue rather than a dull green color. Now they also have light blue by Minnesota Clay Company. Don't know if it's picking up on the camera, but this looks like purple. It looks like a lavender purple on this red clay. It kind of looks like Arctic blue from Amico, but it is called light blue for some reason, and it's actually very purple and not too nice. Same thing on speckled brown. Maybe I'll have to take a picture of it just to put in the video so you can see how purple it is. So I thought, well, okay, maybe it's because it's on red and brown clay it's coming out like that. Well, here it is on porcelain and it looks purple. So I really don't know what's going on with that, but I don't like it. I was hoping for a true blue glaze. Also, I tried some of Kentucky Mudworks transparent glazes. They don't call them Celadon necessarily, but they're just called transparent, and they do have a kind of a full range of colors. I stuck with kind of the blue-greens. And these are really good on porcelain. These have been great. This was the first real test I did on different dishes, and the overlaps are good. It shows up the detail really well. Purple, I think this is called Ocean Mist. This is called Foxglove and Morning Glory. I showed some of this in my last video. But these are nice. This is definitely a way to go if you're looking for some Celadon glazes or type of glazes. This is a good choice by Kentucky Mudworks. Just check out their transparent glazes. They seem to be compatible with each other. I did have them kind of pull a little bit. These are going to be some air plant holders. They kind of crawled and pulled. I don't know if you can see that, the white in there. It's sort of bare, but it still has a little bit of glaze on it. I think it was just really heavy where the overlap occurred, and it got some pulling there, so that's something to consider if you're going to put that on mugs. Some of the overlaps might not work so good. Both of the pieces did that, and it could just be because this is real thin and had a heavy coat of glaze, but on all of the flat stuff, all of the transparent glazes worked really well. So I do recommend those if you want to give those a try, if you're looking for something like that. Now, I also tried something by Minnesota Clay Company again. They call this Potter's Pad. It's sort of like an ink pad type of a thing, like you would use for rubber stamps, but it's underglaze, and it's just similar to an ink pad. It is kind of like you'd expect underglaze to be. It's kind of heavy on the stamps that you use. It fires from 06 to 9, so that is a really good range. So I tried some of it with some underglaze behind them, and if you can see that, it's a Buddha stamp that I have, and the glaze, the shiny glaze on top, the clear is by Amico. It's HF1. It's the zinc-free clear. That's pretty much the only clear that I've ever used, and it's out of the jar. So this was not dipped. I think dipping is the way to go if you're going to do a full piece. One of the issues that I kind of was anticipating was if you're brushing glaze on, the clear glaze, after you've done the stamping, you can be sort of taking the underglaze, even after it's dry, that wet glaze that you're brushing on can pull that underglaze. So I'm not real sure how to do this. You can kind of maybe see the face there. It's sort of pulled, and I knew it when I was doing it because you can see that when you're brushing that on, that underglaze is being pulled and it gets caught up in the brush. So I've tried sort of not necessarily brushing on, but I guess you could say just sort of patting the glaze on, because I have done this before with different underglazes. This HF1 can kind of come out bumpy and not smooth if you do sort of just pat the glaze on. So I'm not real sure what to do at this point other than dipping it. So if you're just doing one section of a piece, you pretty much have to brush it on. But the Potter's Pad really works well. I tried it on paper first. That doesn't really work because I was trying to see what kind of heaviness there was, and I might even have to do a video on doing it, because once you put the stamp into the Potter's Pad, you can't tell if you really have enough on there. If you put it on paper, it doesn't work because it needs an absorbent surface. So if you have like an old piece of bisque lying around, you can test on that. You kind of have to rock the stamp onto a round surface, and this was an irregular, just junky piece that I had thrown and decided to use as a test piece. It's red rock clay with various underglazes, and I wanted to see if this black stamping method would work on all the underglazes, and some of them are just too dark to stamp on, but the white and the turquoise is pretty nice. So that is something that I'm going to try to do, and I thought it might be nice to make tiles out of some of these stamped things, because you can do a drawing, upload it to one of the companies that makes rubber stamps, and you can make your own rubber stamp of your drawing, and now stamp it on pottery, and it'll be permanently on there. So I thought that was kind of an interesting way to do something a little different, maybe make tiles. These are just random stamps that I had, but it can come out pretty nice and clear, so you can kind of see there. And this doesn't have any underglaze, that's just the speckled brown clay with clear on it, and I like that look, so I will be trying some more of that. I think that was basically it. I did a whole bunch of spoon rests in this kiln firing, and this was that speckled ivory over my copper patina by Kentucky Mudwork. So it seems to be a glaze that's going to be pretty compatible with everything. So that's probably the winner of this kiln mode. So I think that is about it for this one. I'm actually going to do another glaze fire tomorrow. So if anything interesting happens, I will show you that. Maybe I should tell you about this. These are just leaves that I kind of cut out. If you put leaves into clay and then cut them out, make little dishes. This is Opal by Coyote, just so I don't leave anybody hanging on what that is. It turns out really nice light blue on speckle brown or red clay. So that's what that is, and that's basically it. Thank you for watching.